Hi, it's Richard, and welcome to the Conscious Marketer Podcast. Hi, Kylie. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's starting to be summer here. And today we're going to be talking about how to create a digital marketing plan, or even what a digital marketing plan is. And we came upon this because, well, first of all, we were working with a lot of clients, and I think one of the questions they ask us is, just tell me what to do, just map it out. I'll do whatever you tell us to, and that's the perfect client, but you need to be really clear on what the direction is. And so there's no online, there's no one formula that fits everybody. And so we started to map out different pathways of action for people. And then probably more recently, we've been in our own company, we've been like, okay, we need to, build out our yearly digital plan. And when you work in an agency, your digital marketing plan tends to be more, kind of more of a launch plan, where how you're fitting all the launches together and who's the workload. And so it just kind of takes over everything. But what happens when you do that is you have a little less time to market your own stuff. So we had to kind of go back into this idea, and we've created something we call a digital marketing plan, which is a little bit different from a traditional marketing plan. I'm kind of curious, Kylie, you've worked with a lot of people. How many of them do you think had a marketing plan or a digital marketing plan, or a market? They probably didn't call it a digital marketing plan, like a marketing plan inside their business that they were actually operating from.
Sure. I just did a quick scan when I knew that's what you were going to ask me. I would say 2 out of the 4 multiple million-dollar companies that I worked with planned out in advance. So the first company that I worked with, we had a year-long plan, and there was a revenue goal attached to it. And there was a clear way to get to that revenue goal. And the coolest part about working with that company was that the clear path to hit those numbers wasn't pie in the sky. Because I think sometimes we're like, oh, we'll sell 10,000 of this and 2,700 of that. And it's, you can, if you have a ginormous budget for traffic, for paid traffic. That's what Mind Valley does. I think they're at $50 million a year or something like that, maybe more now. Same with digital marketing. They're just the whales they just eat the traffic on Google and YouTube and all of that. But a lot of what we were doing with that company was joint ventures. And so every quarter we would have a big partner that we knew that we were going to work with. And we had a webinar that we knew was converting. Right. And so our path to that financial goal was feasible, was reasonable, and it helped us know what kind of content do we need to create? What do we need to be doing to build our list and all of that?
Yeah. And I would say that almost all corporations would have a business plan, marketing plan. But I think that in this new world, this kind of digital nomad, solopreneur, teachers creating their own businesses versus going through publishing companies, a lot of them weren't ever trained to create digital plans. And quite honestly, a lot of the people that are serving as coaches and mentors and even agencies, that they have never been trained in creating, a traditional marketing plan. But what I would say is the traditional marketing plan is quite outdated, because, a lot of the ideas around distribution and promotion and everything, it changes so rapidly. So there's a huge benefit to creating a digital marketing plan. And the inquiry that I had, I don't know, it was probably over a year ago, but it was like, well, what would it take to do, what's the minimal viable digital plan? So kind of like minimal viable product, what's the smallest plan that one could create to be successful online? And we'll talk a little bit later about stage 2, which is okay, you have the minimal plan, but I already have that. I'm posting on regularly or whatever. How do I, really accelerate? How do I break out? And that's kind of stage 2. But if you're listening to this and you're maybe starting your business, you start with a minimal digital plan. And how that would look is you kind of have to anchor in a few things. And you can look on a yearly basis and then break it down by quarter. But basically what we want to know is what your month looks like and what your week looks like. And so it helps you to understand the rhythm that you need to maintain to stay in connection with your customers. And it also helps you to understand how to outsource work to your team. And then it also helps you to plan your launches and your bigger creations that kind of go in there. So let's just lay it out for you. The minimal viable marketing plan is basically, for us, if you go, it's kind of like what's a good example? If you if you go any lower than this, it's probably not even worth being in marketing or being in the digital world. So I think the minimal viable digital plan is you send one email a week. And there will be people who argue with one email a week is too much to me. And those people probably aren't the best clients for us. But one email a week to people in your community, in your email, is what you need to do to just maintain contact. And that email, we're not going to talk about what should be in that email, but as a general rule, it should provide some value and give people some updates. And it doesn't need to be War and Peace or a 17-part newsletter, or, it can just be a simple email. That's enough. That provides some value. Now, what's interesting is if you ask a lot of the creators out there who have email lists, are they sending an email a week? If they're running a real business or not if they're doing that. Often, I would say 70 to 80% of people who are on these email services, CRMs, like whatever it is, Entreport, MailChimp, et cetera, all of them, they aren't even sending an email a week. And so that's the first thing you got to do is just plan your emails. And you can plan like your quarterly emails, and you can plan a theme, and there are different ways to do it. But I would say that that's the first checkbox on your digital marketing plan is plan your emails for the year. And that alone is really quite empowering. And even knowing that you're communicating with your list on a weekly basis helps, so that when you do go to sell, it's not just an ask. You've been giving them stuff. I don't know, Kylie, you have any thoughts on this email a week as a first base level for the plan?
I agree with it entirely. And I think that it comes down to also knowing who you're talking to and knowing how to gently move them towards what your offers are going to be. And that's why, like, when you said quarterly, I think that's a really good way to do it, like laying out your quarterly plan. I think that's a good way to do it, because then this is what I want to sell this quarter, and all of your emails can kind of tee up to it. Jeff Walker calls it pre-launch content, but this is a little different than that, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, you're kind of always helping people move along, keeping the connection going. And in our higher end masterminds, we're implementing quarterly, like kind of day-long intensives where we just do the next quarter and make sure that everybody inside the group has their plans ready. So I would say that the next kind of layer of a minimal digital marketing plan is how you're going to show up on social media. And you can choose different platforms. And as a general rule, we like to see at least one video and at least one quality post. So I'd much rather you have like a really heartfelt live video. So for example, Kylie and I, we go live once a week in our Marketer's Path Facebook group. And we have a Tuesday, I think it's Tuesday at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. And we go and we offer value content, and we tell people what's coming up. We invite them into our programs. And we just have this rhythm because we have over, I think it's close to 5,000 people in that group now. So we're wanting to stay in contact with them. The worst thing you can do is build a group and then just let it kind of fade away. It's like has a half-life if you don't keep nurturing it. So, and then the other posts could be on your personal page. It could be, it could be a post back into the group. It could be a case study. Again, this isn't trying to figure out what's in it. It's mainly just understanding that a couple posts a week is the minimal that you want to do. And there are platforms like Instagram where really you should probably be posting every day, and different platforms. But, on YouTube, you don't need to post every day. If you posted a YouTube video a week, that would be actually, you'd probably be in the top 2% of people. What are your thoughts here, Kylie?
Yeah, I think that if this is intimidating for somebody listening, then one of the things that I do is just like with the emails, I plan out what do I need to do to reach my goals this quarter. And I start to plan out my content in that way. And you can just go to a Google Doc or a camera or whatever it is that you're using, and you can literally just crank out a bunch of stuff in a day. And that way you've done the whole month or you've done the whole quarter. And that way you're not like, oh man, I got to make a Facebook post again, or I got to do Instagram. And that's one of the ways that I do it. If you're not intimidated by the social media, we had a client one time who I think she was doing Instagram and Facebook live streams like every single day. And then when she went to sell, she just crushed it because people were in that relationship with her. They trusted her. So if you're not intimidated, if you post every day, awesome. I post almost every single day on Facebook, starting to do more on Instagram. And now I'm wanting to learn how to use TikTok. But the more you post, the better. And like Richard said, the minimal is okay too. But if you're geared up to do more than the minimal, do it. This is a great way to do it, great place to do it, and a great way to practice.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the minimal is it's just the base level where you start, and you might have a gap or two. But yeah, if you really want to accelerate, but if you're not doing the minimal, it's kind of like, hey, I want to run a marathon, but if you can't run the first mile, run the first mile first. So the first, the running the first mile, the first 3 miles, the first 5 miles is the starting point. And so once you can do that consistently, you can work up to the bigger thing. And I guess in the online space, it's 10,000, 100,000, $1 million, per year. You want to build that business up. So wherever you're at, that's okay. So 3 other aspects of the minimal viable digital marketing plan is on a monthly basis, we really want you to be working on some kind of lead gen. And I'll tell you a quick story, because I was in an event, and I normally sit in the back. I'm like the back kind of person, so I can get fast access to coffee. I'm not the front row person, that's trying to rush the stage or whatever. And so I sat down and I looked to my left, and lo and behold, one of the top internet marketers in the world is sitting like 2 seats over. And I had followed him for a couple of years and never met him. And I kind of reached out my hand, which is rare for me because I'm a little more introverted. And I said, hey, my name is Richard. I just want to thank you. I just thanked him. I said, thanks for all the content you've put out. You've helped me through the years. And he really appreciated that. And then I heard myself asking him, I'm curious, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who wants to have breakout success online? And he turned to me and he said, well, most people don't like to hear this, but take 1 day a week and just work on lead gen, because building your distribution and your list is the single most critical thing you can do. And I was like, wow. And that always stuck with me. It was like it's not like one lead gen or 1 hour every 2 weeks. It was like 1 day a week. So like a full 8 hours, you should be working on like how you can create value and bring leads into your company. So for the digital marketing plan, the 3rd piece is work on lead gen. And we want you to have some kind of lead gen operating, or you need to be like, what are you going to be doing to generate new leads that month? Because if you don't have new prospects and new leads coming in, then you're not going to grow your impact. You're not going to grow your impact or influence or your income in the future. So this lead gen thing is a really important thing to kind of map out. And I kind of like to think of lead gen on a monthly basis. Like, hey, what's the monthly webinar we're going to do? Or are we going to do a challenge this month? Or can we do like a quick training somewhere? Or do we need to work on our ad game, our Facebook ad game? So you can pick something for that monthly theme on lead gen, and then you need to block the time off to like work on that. It's not like a quick thing, it's like something you might want to spend a couple of days on, to really get down.
Yeah, that's really important. And one of the things, and I know I touched onto this earlier, one of the things that I think is very overlooked and very forgotten about, and when I was just starting out in this industry working for multiple companies, they used it and they said that it was the most successful endeavor that they ever had. And that was to do strategic partnerships or joint ventures. I think that's one of the best ways to build your list. And really what you do is you just find somebody that has a similar niche than you do, a similar audience, but a complementary rather than competitive offering. And it's not that hard to create relationships with these people. It's really not. I should do a whole course on it, because to me, it's just not. If you tell people, you can make a bunch of money, do you think they're going to be like, no? I mean, your offer has to be good. You have to be aligned, but people want to make money. It's super easy for them to just send an email, grow your list, and make a bunch of money. And it's easier than a lot of other things that we could do for list building. So I just don't want that strategy to be overlooked as well, because I think when people were doing big partner launches for like 8 years, it was the big thing before people were doing Facebook ads.
Right.
I think what happened was a lot of audience burnout, because it was launch after launch after launch, and people were all promoting the same people, and it got a little annoying, and people were getting the same email from different people about something, and the trust barrier went really low on that. But now That's been a long time. It's been like 5 years since people really stopped doing that in that way. So I feel like it's a really good opportunity for you to slide in and like Richard said, spend 1 day a week building your list. I believe if you spent 1 day a week trying to create these partnerships, you would crush it. You'd do so well. So I just wanted to put that in there because I used to be a joint venture manager. So I'm very partial to this strategy.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. You know, and the nice thing too is there's all kinds of strategies that you can use to build your list. And you know, we have something we call opt-in wheel. So there's so many different ways you can do this. And I think you want to be rotating through strategies, and then you have your core strategies too. So it's a thing that you have to kind of figure out for your business. And you know, and sometimes lead gen is also like if you're a coach or you have certifications or that kind of thing, that it's about like applications to bringing that people into apply to your programs as well. So there's kind of a different version of that. All right, so those are the three aspects. The fourth aspect is launches. So kind of in a digital marketing plan, if you have the year plan, we like to see that you're at least launching something kind of at least quarterly. And so we've kind of gone really in depth we started from the week and we've gone for the month where you're working on lead gen. And now this fourth aspect is like, what are you going to launch? What are you going to offer? And this is something when we work with our mastermind clients now and in the future, we're really insisting that they have active offers out in the market because we want them to be serving and impacting people first of all, right? But it moves you out of like, hey, I'm just going to consume more information or build my list to, hey, I'm going to actually offer and deliver services and impact the world. And you can get stuck in this planning phase and this get more information, get a new technique, run a new challenge, run a new quiz. You can get stuck there. And it's you know, there's like payoffs for that, right? You don't have to get in front of the camera. You don't have to ask for the sale. You don't have to schedule. You don't have to do those affiliate, sales calls or those affiliate partnership calls with people, you know? And so this fourth aspect is on a quarterly basis. What are you going to launch? What are you going to release? Now, some of you listening might have like coaching funnels where you're always bringing people in. So it might be, you're doing additional things to that, or you're asking, how can I increase the number of applications I have, would be the other way to do it. Or you might be more launch based where like I have this program, I launch it 3 times a year, or even membership. You know, I have this membership site. How do I increase the membership? So it's just looking at the offers, or if you're a products company, it's like, how do I increase distribution for that product? So like you want to be factoring in like how you're going to really increase your revenues, because that'll enable you to reinvest in people to support the building of all aspects of your business. So this launch thing is something we love to talk about. We love about offers and launches, and you know, there's the opportunities. It's just unmatched, and the ability to create wealth and create impact in the world has never been greater in the world, and that's exciting. You know, that's exciting for those who serve others.
I agree, and it is a tough time for people right now, and it may continue to be so for a while. But I keep telling the clients that we work with that more millionaires were made out of the Great Depression than any other time in American history, and now we have different technologies. It's like exponentially opportunities, and like Richard said, especially if you're helping people, you know, this is a really powerful time to help more people. And I was writing an ad earlier today about how, you know, when sales drop, then it's up to us to show people how necessary and how important our work is for them. You know, it's like when sales drop, people are like, oh, necessities, but what you are doing is a necessity. And so it's just about showing that. And I think that that's another reason, like that really feeds into why it's so important to build. I love that you said distribution. It's like build your distribution channels now, so that as the waves come and go, right? Like the world is just getting weirder and getting more awesome and getting more interesting. And the more that people trust you, when we hit like a little speed bump, they're still going to buy from you. They're still going to refer you and all of that, but they have to kind of that basic concept in business of know, like, trust. And so I think that what Richard is really saying, because this is his process, it's not mine. I think what he's really saying is like increase your familiarity with the people that are coming into your world, increase that know, like, trust factor. And when it becomes time to sell, it's quite easy. And the other thing I do want to point out, because he did say build your email list, and everything that we're doing with the joint ventures, with the social, we're wanting to do that because one of the first things that I learned when I came online was like, you don't own anything but your list. You know, you don't own your Facebook. You don't own your Instagram. They own it. They own your content. Once you put a post up there, it is no longer yours. And so really spending all that time to build your email list, I think, is really important. And I deeply encourage you to do it, even though when Richard's friend or colleague said, you're not going to like this, a lot of people don't like it. It's boring. They don't want to hear about it. It's like, it's not boring. It's grindy. It's not the exciting work of getting on camera and being on Facebook and being like, hey, everybody. A lot of people like to do that. It's pretty easy. Not everybody wants to plan out lead magnets and list building and how am I going to build trust. So I think if you walk away from anything today, it's really, how are you creating a marketing ecosystem that feeds into itself, that ultimately gets people to feel safe with you, trust you, and when you make offers, there's very little buyer friction.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love how you just weaved the first four things together so that everybody listening could hear that. And let's complete the last one. And so the last piece of the digital marketing plan is what I call aligned asset building. And this is kind of creating your own IP assets. And so this is where we kind of like, we went from week to month to quarter, where we talked about, the quarterly launch. And if you zoom out to the year, I think one of the challenges for some of the people that we talk to occasionally that want to have a bigger impact is they lack status in the market. They aren't known for anything. And so they need to figure out how to build some real IP assets, intellectual property assets that they own, that live. And the thing is, in a traditional marketing plan, like product creation would be in a separate department or whatever, in a traditional business plan or whatever. But really the product a lot of times is the marketing. And so you can create online media assets now that like this podcast is an example. Like you might be listening to this and go, I might want to work with Richard and Kylie someday. Like that's what we're hoping you think, right? But also, like, if you don't and you go create a digital marketing plan, you're successful, like that's great too. Like we just want to serve you here. So let's just look at a few of the what we call kind of status builders. And before I do, I think that the barrier to this is, there's the Eisenhower matrix, like a 4-box, and I think Stephen Covey made this famous in his book 7 Habits Highly Effective People. But basically, this is the box that's important but non-urgent. And important but non-urgent is the box that normally gets forgotten. And what it requires you to do is have either you have to have production overtime, or you have to hole yourself up in a cabin in Maine, with just canned food and do this thing for like a couple weeks and ignore everything else. That's another strategy. So either constant production over time, which some people are better at, or there's or maybe you're more of a fly to Maui and be in a hotel for a week. That might be a better situation for some of you. But it could even be like go to your garage. It doesn't have to be like expensive. You can just, anyway, I'm getting off track here. So the point is you create IP assets. So let's just look at a few of these online that act not only as, unique ways to position you and increase your status in the market, which we'll talk about in later episodes, but also they really help raise who you are in the market, and they market you without having to do anything. So I would say that the first one is something like this, like a podcast, and it takes time to produce a podcast. This is why you might only do one significant IP asset build a year. I think last year we did this program. This year for me, the IP asset is my book. So I'm working on my book, and my goal is to have that done this year and in a publisher's hands, or self-publish it. So if you think about like a book, it's like the best kind of business card that you can build. Probably requires an investment, requires work over time. And these are the things that you can really use to break out. If you look at all the people who I would say, you admire, normally they have a podcast and or a book and or an online show of some kind, or they have like a bigger like anchor program they've worked on, like it could be a certification program. So that would be a significant IP asset build, would be like a larger certification program or mastermind. And these aren't something that you just whip out in a week. They often take months and months of planning. And then once you get it done, then months and months of execution, and this is exciting because I think, I think we look and we think we have to all do it by like the end of the month. But, if I think back 10 years, if I had done one big IP asset build, we'll say it a book or something like that, I would have 10 books by now. And now I'm like, okay, like I've had some really some successes, but we've really focused on a lot of our agencies or our agency clients to do this. So we're starting to build out our own IP assets now. But when we have this podcast, a Facebook group is a good IP asset too. You can, but it takes time to bring people in there and to nurture that. And then you add that to the marketing plan. So I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on IP asset building, Kylie, and how important do you think it is if somebody wants to have breakout success? Because we work with a lot of high performers, and this is what they need. They need to like really grind in and say, okay, we're going to do this one IP asset build. And if you're really aggressive, maybe you could do 2 in a year, but even just 1 a year is really a huge task.
I do believe that in the markets that I've worked in, which is basically the transformational markets, is that course creation, program creation is an amazing asset to own and to have. And especially Richard is better at this than I am, but especially to systematize it and make sure that it's, it has a method and a name and a process, and you go through one step at a time. And then the next piece of content, the next program is a continuation of that. And then as you go up that, then you start to create masterminds. And so you start here and then you go here. And I think that that's what a lot of people kind of are missing. There's coaches or there's healers, and they do a program and then they do another program and they do another program, but it doesn't have what a lot of people that I know call an ascension model. It doesn't really have that pathway. And I think that when you have that, getting clients, keeping clients, and having really happy clients with results is a lot easier. And I think that gives status, that gives good case studies, and it just has a lot of benefits. But for me, that's been the way that I've done it. Richard mentioned a book. I think that's awesome. There's so many ways to do it, but I prefer and really like programs. I would love to write a book, but I really don't know what to write it about. So I just keep telling myself I'm going to write a book, and that gets about as far as it got. So
we can help you with that. We'll get you down the road there on that one.
Thank you.
I would also say that when you look at this fifth bucket too, often, I mean, you can reach out for help for any of these buckets, but like if you want to write a book and you're not an author, like reach out for help. There are companies that like will take you through that. Even podcasting, we initially launched our own podcast, I don't know, like 4 years ago, and then when we kind of graduated that podcast and created our new podcast, Conscious Marketer. We looked and found a production company to handle a lot of the back end stuff and to kind of guide us through, because that's not our area of a specific area of expertise, So a lot of times in this fifth bucket, this is where you want to be working somebody through a clean process to get that to go from point A to Z and not create the wheel. There are people who are experts in anything you want to create. There's people that can help you to do that. So I think that's an important point. So just quick review of what we've covered today. There's 5 parts of a minimal viable digital marketing plan. We just call it a DMP, digital marketing plan. So there's the minimal version. Now, what I would say is at any point, you can take any of these 5 levers and you can just add on to it. So you're like, hey, I'm going to add a Facebook group here. I'm going to add 2 emails a week. Hey, we're going to, do a weekly lead gen, like you can take it to whatever level, but basically these are the 5 things that form the core of any digital marketing plan. And I've given you enough actually to create one. You could like map this out and create it. Again, we do kind of quarterly sessions with our clients to do this so that we know where they're going. We can help them execute on what they want to create in the world. So the 5 things are email. Basically start with a single email and then start to add social. You can start to list different social platforms, but we suggest you start with one core one and focus on one initially, and don't get too spread out. Lead gen, build some lead gen in. Often that can lead right into an offer, or sometimes you can do lead gen like a quiz or summit where you're leading people into a list, but you nurture them over time. Launches and offers. This is a quarterly thing where you're going to be working to get your products out in the market, and you're just going to map out what your year looks like, what your quarters look like. And depending on what your business model, that's going to vary on how often you launch and how often you don't launch. And then finally, kind of this asset creation, the aligned asset creation, the IP building, and kind of determine mainly on a yearly basis what are the big projects you're going to work on. And like I said, how are you going to get that work done? How are you going to make yourself accountable? Can you hire somebody to help you with, especially those bigger projects, to allow that to happen? So, I think this has been a fun episode. I really like talking about digital marketing plans. One of my favorite topics, I think.
I know it is. I think it's exciting too, and hopefully people will benefit from it. And like Richard said, just take one of them and start implementing it. You don't have to get overwhelmed with the whole thing. Ideally, the whole thing would be just like intuitive and ingrained, and you're just doing it. It's not a big deal. But even just stepping into one of them, I think will get you results.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And if you want to work with us, the way to do it, you can join our free Facebook group. We have the Conscious Marketer's Path. It's a great program. Like I said earlier, we post in there once a week. So make sure you join that. You can go to consciousmarketer.com, join our email list, get on there. And we currently have 2 programs we're offering. We have an accelerator, which is a 90-day kind of fast start. It's solely focused on getting a launch out there quickly. It's the fastest way we know to get people in the market and to start making some money and impact. And then we have a higher level mastermind group, and you can learn more about that on our website as well. And I don't think we're ever going to run ads on here, but the one ask we have, if you like this episode, share it with others, post it, tag us, tag me or Kylie, we'll respond. We really appreciate you being in our community. Thank you so much for being part of this episode, and we will talk to you next time.
Thank you.